What is up, Ludy Bros Army? It's your boy, Big Bro Lamar Ludy, and as always, my little bro, Logan Ludy, is rolling with me. What is up, little bro? How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Just ready to finish this off.
Yeah? You know what? It's been a long road. It's been a long, long road. We've watched now 10 episodes, the Last Dance, and here we are in this final episode. We're seeing Jordan and the Bulls going up against Karl Malone and the Utah Jazz, and what's going to be the final dance for the Bulls and this dynasty in the 90s. So, little bro, let's start with you. What do you take coming into this final series, final games, final moments of the Bulls, this documentary, the final moments of the documentary? What do you take, starting this episode off, what do you take from it? What do you think? What are you looking for as we get into this?
Well, I mean, it's just a reiteration of what we're hearing in, beginning of the first documentary about, Jerry Krause continuing to say this is the last year. We're revamping the team. Phil Jackson's not going to coach. And then, we get to the finals, against Karl Malone. And, I mean, it's a little different, You hear John Stockton a little bit more in this one about, they felt like they had a chance to win. They felt like they came back stronger, tougher. And, it's not like they were playing to lose. They were playing to win. They were competitive as well, And one of the things, I want to, let you take the lead on this one. Where was Karl Malone in this documentary? I feel like he should have had a voice in this documentary.
You know what? I'm glad. This is the tidbit that I was wanting to share with everybody. I don't even know if Lil Bro has seen this or has heard about it, but I actually saw the footage of Karl Malone where he's being interviewed, because they did interview him for the documentary, and it didn't make it into the final cut. But what happened was they asked him, Karl Malone, what do you think when you hear the name Michael Jordan? And Karl Malone's response is, Michael Jordan? Like, that name doesn't mean nothing special to me. Like, Michael Jordan, he said, with all due respect, and I'm trying to quote this as close as I can. With all due respect to Michael Jordan, he was a bad man, but you know what? I was a bad man too. And that's how we felt, the Utah Jazz, I was a bad man too. So when and now I'm stopping quoting now, but when you're asking someone, and I've touched on this over the course of this documentary, the guys that he played against are some of the best talented players that we've seen. Karl Malone is the second best power forward in NBA history behind Tim Duncan. The only reason why he doesn't have rings is because he ran into Michael Jordan. The Utah Jazz get there twice. He doesn't get the ring because he ran into Michael Jordan. But Karl Malone, he, in his mind, and I'm glad that he started off with what John Stockton was saying, these guys are ultra competitive. They're some of the best basketball players ever. They're some of the best basketball players that we've ever seen play in the 74 years that the NBA has been around.
Right.
And, for him to have that response. Now, this is why I'm not upset that he had this type of response. And I touched on it, I believe, in our review with the episode with the Dream Team. The NBA landscape has changed. Okay, yeah. For better or for worse, the NBA landscape has changed. These guys play basketball together from the time they're little kids till they get into the NBA through AAU ball. Social media is a thing now that it wasn't before. So you're able to see who else is coming down the pipe along with you in that same time frame. Before, another good basketball player across the country, you might not ever hear about him until you get up to the college level. And then you guys might see each other in the big dance, and then you're not seeing each other again until you make it to the NBA. It was a different time. It was a different era. It was a different mentality. It was a different mentality. The game was just different. So to hear Karl Malone say something like that, I see why they didn't include it. I see why they didn't include it in the documentary. But I'm glad that I personally was able to see that. Now, I'm not a Karl Malone fan. I never have been. But I can respect the ability that he brings to the floor, And for him to say that, yeah, I mean, you scored the second most points in NBA history. You had a very long career, a long successful career playing alongside John Stockton, and then you went ring chasing over to the Lakers at near the very, very end. But I enjoy seeing that competitive aspect because it just makes me feel like these guys played it, and like I said before, they play it in a different way than what's played today. Now, this is not a knock on today's NBA. Okay, folks, I'm not on today's NBA at all. Those guys are still just as competitive. I'm just saying that it was different. The motivation behind it was different. The mentality behind it was different. It was just a different game. So that was the tidbit that I wanted to share with all of you guys, and I really want to get some comments going on that. Ludy Bros asking, where's Karl Malone? Well, this is what he had to say about it. Please hit us up in the comments below. We're not ending the video now, but I really want to see you guys get down in the comments below and leave some thoughts. I want to hear other people's thoughts on this. So get down in those comments below, leave some thoughts on Karl Malone and his feelings towards, this Jordan documentary, because I really feel like it gave a voice to all the guys who had maybe a negative feeling on this documentary. It gave a voice to that. I feel that Karl Malone gave a voice to that. And this channel, Ludy Bros Entertainment, this is objective. We're objective here, and we want to get, viewpoints going any way, shape, or form. Get down those comments below and comment on that. I'm really asking you guys, Ludy Bros Army, go ahead and do that. But let's get back into this game. Let's go ahead and let's get into the final game. Lil Bro, from your viewpoint, sitting there at home watching this, I don't know. Was this your first time seeing any footage from this game? Had you seen it before?
No, I've seen some other, there's been some other documentaries out there highlighting, the Bulls. I've seen, a bit of this game. I've seen Michael Jordan, hitting the shot, which we'll get into in a minute. But I've seen some things of this. Yeah.
So for me, and this is another thing that I said in our last video. I said I wanted to get real personal with this one. I actually was at the game. I was blessed and fortunate enough. I was at the game. I was in the Delta Center. Tight. Yeah, I was blessed and fortunate enough to be at Michael Jordan's last game. I was fortunate enough to see all-time greats live. And, the way that it worked out, I went with some friends who I'm still friends with to this day. As a matter of fact, I was talking with one of them earlier today on the phone. We were going back and forth over Durant and his ranking on our recent list. I did a live reaction video to that, so you can go ahead and check that out. But I'm still friends with these guys to this day. And, I went with them. There were some guys I used to play basketball with in summers. And we got to go to the game. And it was an experience of a lifetime. I want to say that it was an experience of a lifetime. I can remember from the moment that I found out that I was going. I remember, the plane trip. I'm in California. We're flying out there to Utah. And I remember walking up to the Delta Center. I remember, when you walk out, if you've been to an NBA game, you walk out from the hallway, the tunnel, and then there's the court and the lighting. I could just see it all, in my mind's eye. Man, to go back and reminisce over that game, watching the documentary, and to go back and reminisce over that game. Now, the way that it broke down was because there was a group of us that had went. So in the first half, I sat up, and I'm going to have a picture pop up with the arena, and I'll be able to try and highlight where I was sitting. First half, I sat up, like 200, 300 section. But in the third quarter, I got to sit down in the third row, and I'm sitting behind David Hasselhoff and the owner of the Utah Jazz. I'm sitting right behind those guys in the third quarter. So I got to spend the third quarter in the third row sitting behind David Hasselhoff. And there's one point now I'm going for the Bulls. I want to see Jordan win. I knew at the time that this was going to be his final appearance in the Bulls uniform. So I want to see the Cinderella ending. So I'm going for the Bulls. And there's a moment in time where I'm cheering for for the Bulls. They got the rebound. They're kicking the ball out. And David Hasselhoff and the owner turn around and they look at me, and I'm like, ooh, and I'm like a, I don't know, 14-year-old kid or something like that, 13-year-old kid, and I freeze up like that, looking at them back. Well, a couple minutes later, Antoine Carr dunks the ball, and he was a player for the Utah Jazz. He dunks the ball, and David Hasselhoff stands up and he turns around at me, and he screams at me. He screamed right in my face, funny. And I'm sitting there, with my best friend. My best friend sitting with me, Jimmy Lott. We're sitting there, and he screams in my face, and I sit like this, and I turn and look at him, and for the rest of the time, I'm scared to cheer, so I just sit like this, and I'm just watching the game like that. So that was a big moment in my lifetime. I'll never forget. Mr. Hasselhoff, if you're watching, hey, just know that you terrified a kid. You terrified a kid sitting there at that game. But Oh man, it was just great. And when it comes down to Jordan's greatness, let's talk about some of the things, and then we'll get into the final shot. Um, Jordan's greatness, Karl Malone and Utah Jazz, those are some great Hall of Fame players. But Scottie Pippen, let's talk about Scottie Pippen. His back's killing him. He doesn't know if he can go. Now, I actually want to touch on a couple things when it comes to Scottie Pippen. When it comes to this, he had the migraine game back against the Pistons. He had a migraine game that really affected his play back then. We've seen already with him and his whole reaction to Tony Kukoc. So now we're coming here. This time he didn't play. He didn't play at the beginning of the season. He missed about 30-something games at the beginning of the season, and now we're here, with the back injury. Now, for me, the way that he performed in this game, it erases a lot of things. He toughed out. I've had back pain before. I've had back spasms where they've locked up and I haven't been able to get out of bed for one day. That's happened to me. This man went out there and played. And when you watch that footage, he's wincing, he's hurting, he's in pain. He's running awkward up and down the court. Lil Bro, what do you think about Scottie Pippen, and his effort that he gave in this final game?
Well, his effort was much needed because I think the mindset of this is, the last dance. This is our last chance to, write history. I think that, I think, and this is just me guessing, I think, from everything that's gone down with, his migraine to, all the stuff that's gone through, with this thing, I think he made it his responsibility to, I need to make sure I leave it all out here.
Mm-hmm.
And not like walk out into the locker room, which he did multiple times, but he came back.
Mm-hmm.
To just leave it all out there on the floor because and also that Michael Jordan flu game.
Mm-hmm.
I think impacted
food poisoning game.
Yeah, food poisoning. Excuse me. But I think that impacted him to just try do whatever, just be out there to be a decoy.
Yeah.
Whatever helps the team to win, and he went out and did that, and that means a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And basically that's when Michael Jordan said, all right, well, I'm touching the ball every time. Scottie Pippen was out there to be a decoy, so it's and that's what helped them to win.
Mm-hmm. I think I like to think, and I wish that they would have asked Pippen. I don't know if he would have answered it. It seemed like he was answering everything honestly, based on his responses to some of the things. But I would have liked for them to just ask him, did you leave so much on the floor in this final game because you learned something in the Tony Kukoc, experience? You're right. You got to do whatever it takes to win a title. You got to do whatever it takes. And in this case, it took him being a decoy. Now, even though he was being a decoy, he's still deflecting balls, grabbing boards. You can contribute, and that's what kids. If you're a kid younger than 18, 15, 16, watching this video, you can contribute. It's not just about can I score the ball. There's other ways that you can impact the game. And in this case, Scottie Pippen's out there. That's maybe the greatest decoy of all time that you could have is Scottie Pippen up and down the court. My thing is that you could tell. I mean, you see the documentary. He's running like the Tin Man. He's running like the Tin Man going down the yellow brick road, but he's leaving it out on the court. There's no question. There's no questioning him this time that he's not going to walk away from the team and let them be left hanging.
Right.
Oh man. So that that's just it's a toughness. That's a toughness for Pippen. So I'm glad that because people want to say that his image might have taken a beating throughout this documentary. Well, you know what? First of all, those were his choices that are being reported on, just like this one. This was his choice to dig deeper than he had, ever dug. I don't know. I'm not the man himself, but dig deeper than what we had seen in the documentary and leave it on the floor. And he goes out and he does just that. So for me, if that's my teammate, that's going to, change a lot of things, for me, because that's going to enable us to get that win. Michael Jordan got the last shot, but there's 47 minutes before that last minute comes up, So we got that. Now let's talk about this. And I can remember this too. There's a moment where Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman they're supposed to be running up the court. but they're flipping and flopping and hitting each other and falling down over each other. What do you think, seeing Rodman's road as he came from the Pistons and he had his, tough situations, to live through and go through. Rodman now is here. Pippen didn't play. We're doing a lot of revisionist history here, folks. So keep up with us. Pippen didn't play those first 30 games. Rodman had a huge role, being number 2 to Jordan at that time. Then Pippen comes back about 33 games in the season, something like that, 33, 35,
right,
something like that, games into the season. So now Rodman needs to readjust his role. Here we are in the NBA Finals. Rodman is there doing his thing. And here we are in the last game. Rodman's there fighting for his life against Karl Malone. What do you think? What do you think about the impact that Rodman had in that last finals series and in that last game?
Well, hey, Karl Malone is one of the greatest players to play the game, and he did what, as well as you can do against, someone like that. Dennis Rodman is not gonna outscore you. He'll try. He'll get his rebounds. That's for sure. But he's gonna play his heart out. He's gonna play like there's no tomorrow. He's gonna play like it's his last game. He's gonna do whatever needs to be done to help his team, because he is he's everything about the team. Everything is about the team with him. Whatever he needs to do, he'll do it. That's just that type of person. And and he's Dennis Rodman is an interesting character. That he's changed and developed, but that's just we're watching his growth and develop as a person and as a player, and we kind of missed a little bit of this, but he while going on his vacation, on that year, he took trips to Vegas when they were in Utah.
Yeah,
party, which got touched on a little bit, which is you wouldn't be, in today's, it would be unprecedented.
Right.
And that's just what he needed to do to be focused on winning and helping the team. So
right.
That's, it's to be done nowadays. It's kind of, you got some of these, athletes going to parties before and after games, and, it's they don't, do it as well, but that's just, they're not the same. They're not the same like him.
Well, and that I like that you said they're not the same, because, Phil Jackson was able to get the most out of, these guys by managing their egos. That's how I feel. That's how I've always felt, is that Phil Jackson is the greatest manager of egos that we've seen in the NBA as a coach. He was able to understand Dennis Rodman. And Dennis Rodman called him earlier on, I think it was like episode 3, Dennis Rodman calls him, he was a great friend. He was a great friend to me, so more than just a coach, he considered him a great friend. And they had an understanding of what Rodman needed in order for him to be able to perform, at his finest. Now, this is the thing. This is the ultimate thing about it. And you've actually touched on this quite a few times. Rodman is a rebounder, the which we've never seen, the likes of which we haven't seen before or since. He's a defender that can defend at a level that's very far and few in between. I'm not saying that you give a guy the free leeway, but the thing is that the Bulls had the personality in the locker room to corral that, control it, and then come onto the court and get what they needed from out of him. You can take Rodman and you can put him on just about any other championship team. I'm going to say championship team from 1990, 1998 on, and it's, you're not going to be able to get that.
Right.
Maybe the Spurs with Tim Duncan and David Robinson and Greg Popovich, maybe that Spurs team could do it. But he played with the Spurs after he left Detroit, But I'm just saying, with the addition of Tim Duncan there, maybe that could do it. We saw him with the Lakers for a little bit. Rodman went to the Lakers for a little bit, or he went to the Mavericks, and that's just about it. He only played about 30-something games after that, after that point. And it's sad. It really is sad to think that he went down that way, because he was still averaging some 13 rebounds per game, So he still was doing that. So, and that's going to lead me to, and hopefully we do sit down and do a future video on this. It's a what if scenario, but the Bulls win, in that lockout shortened season, they bring back the exact same roster. I would like to sit down and take a look at that and kind of crunch something out with you. But, for Dennis Rodman, we're talking about Pippen and the toughness he brought. We're talking about Dennis Rodman and the focus that he needed and was provided to him from the Bulls organization. They were able to corral and get the most out of him, and it showed. It showed in 3 championships there with the Bulls. Now let's get into this, and it's coming down here to the end. This documentary has just been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride with a lot of information that's come out and has helped us learn and get a closer look at Michael Jordan. Now here we are. It's coming down to the shot. So I want to say, with my experience there at the Delta Center, in that moment. So now I said in the third quarter I got to sit down row 3. Fourth quarter I had to come back around the building and sit back up high again. So I'm no longer behind David Hasselhoff where he can scream at me anymore. So now I'm sitting up high. The Utah Jazz fans, they're right there, and they are a loud group of people. They're supporting their team, as fans should, but they are up everywhere you look. Me and I said my friend Jimmy, we had been sitting next to each other the whole entire time. So now we've moved over here. We're not as loud. Because these people around us, man, it's just like it's crazy in there. It's almost time for us to leave because we have to catch our flight to come back to California. I got to go to school the next day. So it's almost time for us to leave. So we have to get up from our seat and we have to start. We're heading back out to the arena. We're heading back to where everybody needs to meet up. But we keep stopping in the tunnels to look. It finally gets to the point where there's 30 seconds left, about 30 seconds left in the game. So we stop in the hallway to stop and watch. And I can remember everything from the angle that I had on the court. I'm diagonal I'm looking at Jordan's backside, and I see him bringing the ball up. I see him steal the ball from Karl Malone. He dribbles the ball up court. Now, I like in the documentary, Scottie Pippen said, they asked him what he needs to do. He said, I need to get out of the way. They asked Rodman what he needs to do. He said, I went down to the corner. I planted myself right here. I said, because he's taking the last shot. Everybody knew that there wasn't going to be a pass off to Kerr. There wasn't going to be, nobody else taking a shot. This was Jordan's shot. And I stopped, we stopped in the stairway, stairway up above, and we're watching from the tunnel. And you see Jordan there, 1-2. He hard dribbles right, and there was, people want to talk, oh, he pushed him off. There was no push. There's no push. It's
he got crossed over.
Yeah, he crossed him up. Brian Russell is flying on his own. And then boom, Jordan pulls up, flicks that wrist, and he hangs it there. Mm-hmm. And when he hit that shot, me and my friend, we start jumping up and down there in the stairwell, and everybody around us stops and turns and looks. Everybody stops and they turn and look. We're the only ones in that area that was happy to see that shot go in. So he makes that shot, and then we knew. I knew in that moment, like he did it. He did it. He got the Cinderella ending. Oh man, and it's just I'm thinking about it now. I'm reliving it through the documentary, and it's just a moment. As far as basketball moments for me go, as a fan, as a I like to consider myself a student of the game. As a student of the game, I just appreciate that moment so much, to have been able to go and see this live and see it in person, and have that experience of seeing Michael Jordan's last shot as a Bull. It just really was a super special moment. And this documentary series has been super special. So for me, seeing it as somebody who lived through it and then got to, go back and visit it again, I want to now turn the table over to Lil Bro as somebody who is seeing some of this stuff and learning about it from the first time. And he's a Bulls fan. He's in Chicago. He's a Bulls fan. So Lil Bro, why don't you tell us now? I shared my experience, my personal experience with that moment in time, that moment in basketball history. How about you? I would like to hear from somebody who is seeing this, brand new.
Well, for me, I had just been born a few months prior to this last season. So I've only heard about, Michael Jordan, the Bulls, through, just, little things like past players, like reviews, stuff online over the years, just little things. But watching this documentary, it's an important part of basketball history. And just real quick, I know this is, centered around Michael Jordan and the Bulls, but I feel like it highlights the 90s era really well. I mean, it highlights all the greats who played in it. I'm sure there'll be other documentaries, coming out about it. But if they did, it'd be a nice thing to leave at, like for the 90s era. And I thought that was, really cool because, I haven't seen much of, that era at all for basketball wise, mainly, around this generation. But, it was great to see, great to watch, Michael Jordan just, cross over. What's the dude's name?
Brian Russell
completely crossed him over. And, that thing, the push off, his arm is up because he's catching the ball in his other hand. So, and then for him to, shoot that and then to, have it end the way it did, it was great, but I would have liked, like I said, we could do this in the future. I'd like to see, Michael Jordan said, you play until you get beat. You don't just leave it, like that. I mean, it would have been interesting to see them, with lockout shortened season, if they would still be able to get a seventh. I believe they could have, but we'll save that for, possibly for another video. But it was just a, fabulous documentary. I'll probably watch it again down the line. And, it was just great.
Yeah, see, so that's always how I like to look at things. Is like when you're looking at this type of stuff with history, and this is why I'm shooting out a plea to ESPN. Do documentaries on more of these guys while we still have them. Hit the Showtime Lakers. Like give us some more information. Give us some more in-depth interviews with the Showtime Lakers. Kareem is still around. I would love to sit and watch Kareem. Now, the thing that separates is going to be this. Michael Jordan, and you know what, too, what this documentary did a beautiful job of doing is we got to hear from former President Barack Obama. And he very eloquently made a statement about what Michael Jordan meant, not just to basketball, but to the world, And that was such an eloquent statement by the former president, is that, Michael Jordan meant so much to so many people, and that he's still the most popular, athlete today. And it transcends time. It transcends, just the sport of basketball alone. It transcends time. So when you're sitting here and people were gathering, I mean, for that final episode, we were gathered around the TV to watch it, and I got up from there after it wrapped up. I got up from there and I was like, God, this is just such, it was so good. This was so good. And like you said, I'm going to watch it again. I was even about to start watching it today, to start rewatching it today from episode 1. Because the thing is that I go back to that moment. Like I said, I was like 13 years old, at that game. And I can go back to that moment. And I fly back home, and I wore the shirt the next day to school. And I took my ticket and I taped it to the shirt for proof. So then that way everybody could see. And I had my friends, I was a freshman in high school. I had my friends, you were at the game? I'm like, yes, here's my ticket. I flew back home. I only got like a few hours of sleep, but I was at the game. I was just the happiest, at that point in my life, probably that I had been was at that moment. And to be able to experience that, and then fast forward to today, to be able to try and share that with you. You and I have been on this journey, reviewing every video, and folks, we don't sit and like devise this whole thing up. We sit down and we kind of just talk with each other and get the insight from each other that we're both thinking and feeling. But it just really is something special. And I mean, I'm throwing a call out to ESPN. Please bring us more documentaries. I do a documentary on the dang Wizards when Jordan was playing for the Wizards. I don't care. I just want to see more of it. I want to see the Showtime Lakers. I want to see the Pistons. I want to see the Celtics. Bring us. I want to see the Rockets. As a hardcore NBA fan, I want to see these guys. Talk about these things, so that way we can go back and have a greater appreciation for the talent that's come before. There's great talented players in the NBA right now. We've got our LeBron Jameses. We've got Kawhi Leonards. We've got Anthony Davis's, Giannis's. We've got these guys in the NBA today, and each one of those guys is chiming in on social media saying how much they love this documentary on the Bulls. And I think that's another big takeaway. Jordan's impact still felt to this day. These guys are all chiming in after every episode saying that they wish that they could watch more. And something that's very important, and then I want LudyBros' opinion on this. This is very important to me. Michael Jordan made that comment. He showed up and he played every game. There was no load management. There was no sitting games out. There is no, I got to be ready for the playoffs. Jordan showed up every game, not like some of these guys in today's NBA. And this is what I've been talking about and getting to. And here we are in the final episode of this. Let's talk about that mentality a little bit. The mentality of today's players, I got to take time off. I got to take time off. You know what? You can't be one of the greatest. You're taking time off. You know, we got a player, you know, playing for the Clippers right now who loves taking time off. You can't be in that conversation. You can't be in that conversation. Don't deserve to be in that conversation. Because you know what Jordan said? What did he say along the way in the documentary? Little bro, probably don't even need to, like I already said, we don't prep this. Little bro, what did Jordan say when he talks about showing up to play for these games? You know, he's showing up and what? What reason was got for showing up?
To play against the best. That's why they're there. That's why you play the game. See, and when you go to the even to a park or a gym or whatever, when you're playing a pickup game, you're not playing to just sit out or to play when but you want to play because you want to play against the best every night, or every chance you get. Really, I mean, these guys, they're getting paid too, millions and millions of dollars, and for you to say, well, my knee's hurting, I'm gonna sit a game or two out. No. I mean, if you are seriously hurt, then yes, you're gonna have to sit out. I mean, you're obviously able to play, but for you to just say, well, all right, well, I'm feeling a little bit of pain in this leg, and I have to take a few. Like, no, like that just, in this documentary, as you said, highlights. There's no load management. You're gonna play. I mean, that's why Michael Jordan it fueled him because he got hurt. After the first 2 years, he broke his foot.
Yeah, his second year he broke his foot.
His second year, he broke his foot, and for him, it was the worst feeling in the world for him because he just wanted to be out there to play. And I mean, I'm not trying to like check some of these guys' like desires or anything because I know they want to play, but for some of these guys, it's his mentality. That's why. I mean, you don't hear LeBron James for today. You don't see him taking about loads management. He wants to play every game if he can.
You know what? The thing too is that Jordan said there's and he had that family unit. He had that family unit with his father. He had that close relationship with his father. That was well documented throughout the series. And he said there might be a father and son who came to see me for the first time, and they paid their hard money to come see me play. I'm gonna play. Tim Grover, his trainer, said the thing that separates now Tim Grover's trained a lot of guys. He trained Kobe, he trained Charles Barkley, he trained Dwayne Wade. He trained a lot of, and these are top guys. He said the thing that separated Jordan from everybody else was that he didn't take the time off. He didn't take the time off. He didn't take the games off. He didn't take games off.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing about it. That's the thing about it. And that's, something that really stands out to me. If you're going to take something from this documentary, because I mean, I don't believe in personally putting a person up on a pedestal and worshiping them. Because you know what, in the end of the day, as much praise as I've heaped on Jordan for these last 10 videos that Lil Bro and I have done, he's still a man just like me. He still has to get up and eat breakfast and go to the bathroom same way I do. So I'm not worshiping him like that. But the thing that I can take away from him, that leadership mentality, that will, that desire, that's something that I can look at Jordan and say, I appreciate that about you. And, to rewind time to my younger self, however many years ago, we're talking now 20 odd years ago, 24 years ago, 23 years ago, to remember that emotion that I got as a basketball fan and seeing him hit that shot and lead that team to greatness, which is what he did. He led that team to greatness. I talked about when the Bulls won their first three-peat. Now they've done it again. To see someone do that, in my time where I'm know basketball well enough to the point to appreciate it, that is something that is always going to stick with me. And I appreciate Michael Jordan. And, I thank him for that. I thank him for that. I appreciate that, that aspect of it. So, Lil Bro, let's get some final thoughts from you if you have any about this whole docu-series, this last game, this last dance. Let's get some final thoughts from you.
Yeah, well, this documentary just highlights, Michael Jordan, helped jumpstart the league into, greater heights, with his era, his style of play, and his team. He put our city of Chicago on the map, and you know, it's great to see something like this. As a, you know, a more newer generation, you know, to see something like this. And you know, I you know, like, I would love to see more documentaries, you know, on some of these other players, like, you know, like, you know, Reggie Miller, Charles Barkley, you know, some of these people that he went up against, you know, some of these greats. And you know, hopefully we'll get to see that, you know, maybe in a few years or so. But you know, yeah, I mean, I'm just, you know, it's great. That's all I can.
Almost at a loss for words.
Yeah.
It kind of leaves you almost at a loss for words. Like I said, I got up from the couch, and I just, you know, first thing out of my mouth was like, man, that was just great. You know,
I'm kind of jealous. You know, you got to see it, you know, firsthand.
Yeah, man. My little
that's
claim.
Great for you.
Thank you. I mean, that's my little claim. You know, I've been to a few basketball games. I've seen LeBron. You know, I've seen KG. My favorite player. Was my favorite player for a long time. I got to see Kevin Garnett play. I saw Patrick Ewing. I got to see Patrick Ewing play near the end of his career. And I've seen Blake Griffin. You know, I've seen a handful of guys that were, you know, great basketball players, basketball talents. But this game right here is my, you know, that's my one claim. You know, to be
that's
close,
awesome.
to be in row 3 away from the greatest player of all time, and a great collection. You know, I don't want to take away from the other guys that were on the court. I mean, I saw Rodman, Pippen, Malone, and Stockton. You know, in that game. You know, I saw Jerry Sloan and Phil Jackson. You know, I got to see these guys. I got to be in that building with them and see that competition at the highest level. And you know, that was what I take away from it. You know, the generation today can take that. You know, hey, you got to give so much to compete and to get to such a high level. And the dice, you know, they got to roll your way in a lot of way, shape, and form. But you can go out there and you touched on it in a previous video. You can go out there and you can snatch it. That's what this American dream is all about. Going out there and snatching it. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning in. This was a very close episode to both me and Little Bros' heart. This docu-series has just been wonderful. We truly enjoyed it. Please hit us up in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts. Share with us. Share with us what you remember from that final game of the Bulls and the Jazz and that final episode of The Last Dance.
Yep. Hey, Ludy Bros Army is growing. Ludy Bros Army keeps growing. So hit that subscribe button. Let everybody know this is where you want to be. This is what you want to tune into every day, every week. You know, just hey, hit us up for sure.
There you go. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.